We had fun though. We had the whole.
It was interesting when we were
Back and not too bad. At the end of the 70 route.
Did you get your Jeep, buddy?
I spent all day yesterday at the garden hose cleaning it out, crevices.
That man right there.
I know. And I got a gas car.
No. Yeah.
The funny thing was, when we left Palmer, halfway in, my wife was, do you have gas? I looked down, I was like, oh, shoot.
Well, every one of the towns has a card pump or something. So.
I like that pump in man. That's fast.
Yeah. When I saw you, if I wasn't so cold and fixing to get some lunch at Palmer, I just stopped and hollered at you, but I was just like, Paul, I'd already done my section of my relay, so it wasn't too cold until you stopped.
It would have been neat if they would have had that church in Kimmel.
I know.
To be able to walk in and see
It's a neat place.
Did you shake it up as you were
I
walking
guess.
in?
Must have. My whole day's been like this.
Had you been there before?
No.
Really?
Why not?
When I heard you from Irish Catholic. See, I'm Irish
I
Catholic.
know.
So
I
I'm gonna go back and
figured it was right up your alley. You can see that church from a long ways away.
Really?
It's quite a landmark. That's why I've been kind of angling for years to make that stop.
Great thing to bring. His family lives down there.
Yeah, not too far from there,
He
really.
says he tried to tell me today they brought every one of those stones up, one at a time, in a horse and buggy. I said, okay, that sounds good.
One at a time, I'm not sure about.
That's what I thought.
It used to have such big, heavy doors on it, but see, they did a big restoration like 20 years ago. The old heavy doors, like kids couldn't open them. They were like,
Looks like you could sleep with 2
I
keys.
mean, they were like 6 inches big old oak doors. Those, I believe, they carried one at a time. Adults had to open them.
Just approve agenda as presented. I hear that works.
Stayed too long at Hanover.
You can see you down at the finish line after.
I don't think there's anything negative on there, is there?
I think you probably could have.
Waiting for them to get done.
We were there at about 9:30.
Were you?
Because I got a
I was
pie.
around.
Mel Bikeland's wife gave us a pie.
Yeah.
At the very end.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing with our group is having pie.
And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I never pedaled, but I'm done.
Really, one thing about team up there, I was happy as could be. I was happy to be done. I was happy to have the rest of the day.
It'd be easier.
It was the way to live.
I was kind of proud of Mel. We've been friends for a long time.
Oh gosh, yeah. See, Mel's an animal. He's got grit. Literally and figuratively, now he's got grit probably places he doesn't want. I've ridden some pretty tough rides with Mel.
And his dry humor. That's what I love about it.
Some would say dark humor.
Yeah.
My favorite Mel bike ride line is, it's always darkest just before it goes completely black. Like that's the cheerful attitude you want when you're out there suffering.
Yes, absolutely. If that's what he meant.
House meeting order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Fry,
Present.
Keating,
Present. Cindy.
Snelling.
Present.
Bikeman,
Present.
Garacki. Present. Price,
Present.
Barons,
Here.
Throm. Here. 8.
Okay. First up, we have the approval of minutes from the regular meeting on August 22nd.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have the special meeting on August 31st.
Move approve as written.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have public comment. Is anybody here for 5-minute public comment? Yes.
My name's Doug Unger. I've recently purchased a piece of property on west side of town on the edge, and I've been talking to several people about getting Connex boxes moved down to my shop. I want to put a roof over them and make it a permanent garage, which makes a permanent structure taxable by the city. But nothing's going on, and I'd like to have you guys start talking about that again so we can come up with some rules, maybe one color paint and an attached roof to make them more aesthetically valuable to town. I know we got people that complain about them, but down in the area I'm in, not anybody's going to see it unless they're down there snooping anyway. But I already have 2 boxes on a piece of property in Oquito, and I need to sell the property. I want to bring the boxes to town and put a roof over them and turn them into a shop.
Okay.
And they're really good storehouses. I mean, they're safe. I've had people try to break into them. Nobody can break in. They're just a really good thing to have. A lot of people turn them into workshops and houses and other stuff. I don't want to get that elaborate. I just want a roof on it, and that's it. So I would like the council to start considering that and talking about that, so we can go over it more in later dates.
Is that storage containers?
Yeah, storage
Yeah.
containers.
Just like what they got over at Dollar Store right now.
But didn't we have something on that already?
Yes.
There's a moratorium that says you can't.
It's a moratorium right now.
Yeah.
We've brought it back and there's never been a actual decision made on it.
Dollar General's gonna remodel, that's why theirs is there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They can do it for a time frame.
Right.
That way, that's the way it's.
Well, when I bought the building, I bought it through, well, McNish was our whatever on the deal. And I was talking to him about that, and he said it was in the stages of trying to draw up the rules about it, but then they've never have gone any farther. So,
Guess we're going to now.
well, I'd greatly appreciate it, because I've been waiting about a year to get this piece of property done out there so I can move on and make progress at my other shop. And so I'm just kind of prodding a little bit.
No, you're fine.
And I can come back at another date and we'll see where we're at.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Boots.
All right, anybody else here for 5-minute public comment?
Mark Hoffman, representing the Pony Express Gravel Dash. I want to thank the city for all the support and community in general. You know, a tremendous group of volunteers and support of the city. And I know we had some last minute things come up. There always is. Street sweeper, the faucet at the water faucet at the Chamber Main Street building. You guys jumped on stuff and got it done. The riders really appreciated the hot shower for the shower trailer that we needed the water hookup for. So it was a difficult day with the weather, but in general, people still loved it and loved the challenge, and they loved coming to Marysville and seeing all the community involvement and support. So just want to thank everybody for their help and support.
I'd add in there the helping get the tent down that was going to try to blow down
Yeah.
on Friday. Kind of a last minute deal, and it was nice that we got the
Yeah,
city.
Friday evening when the front came through, the tent was kind of in bad shape, and we didn't want it blowing over into the porta potties, and so, yeah. But the other tent worked great, the 10 by 20, that's very helpful. We needed as many tents as possible Saturday get people out of the rain while we waited out the lightning delay, so. Just want to thank everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Maybe. Hello?
Hello. Our industry requires us to wear these indoors, so, we're Robert Nicole Woodard, 601 South 17th Street. We're just here to recognize it's important for us to remark on things which deserve thanks. Robert would render the formal thanks himself, but he's no longer fluent after an injury in 2020. And so he therefore asked me to draft and read a formal statement of thanks on the continuous accessibility to the industrial park during the road work down there and the new concrete road segment on Spring Street. The paved end of Spring Street on the east was poor since I've known it back to 2006, and apparently was the same poor condition when you guys extended the industrial park back in 2001. I know Councilman Price can attest to that from personal experience driving down there weekly to mow the former Envirotech lot. And since Spring Street was passable and frequently kept up by the city, we never ever considered complaining about how poor it was. We just drove carefully. I heard later it never really was a formal road, but what you all did was just such a vast improvement, far beyond what I was expecting when I heard y'all were doing road work. Additionally, and even more importantly, by the foresight of you all in the council, the initiative of Mr. Howard Pendergast, attention, the guidance of Mr. McNish, generosity of Tension Envelope Corporate Headquarters, our access to the industrial park for business operations was never impeded. Well done all y'all. A big thank you to the city administrator for organizing and overseeing the project. Thank you to the city clerk for smoothing the whole process along by your own expertise. Thank you to the mayor and the council for considering and advancing that project, giving us such a beautiful, beautiful new road. I suggest you all come and take a look at the pavement if you haven't already. A thank you to Mr. McNish, who apparently is absent, working out terms with Tension Envelope on that easement to keep the industrial park operational. Thank you especially to a great neighbor, Mr. Howard Pendergast, for jumping to bring Tension Envelope on board solely for the benefit of the other 4 businesses that share the industrial park with Tension Envelope. Thank you to Inline Construction, of course, for the minimally disruptive build. Of course, I don't know everyone who's had a hand in the project, and no insult is intended by withholding any specific thanks. So thank you generally to everyone who has made this road project a success. Well done all. To the mayor and council, by your diligent efforts to keep track of deferred issues from the past affecting Marysville's industrial sector, by patient listening, and by innumerable hours dedicated to enacting solutions, you will leave the city of Marysville greater than you found it upon assuming your office. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is anybody else here for 5-minute public comment? Okay. We'll move on to the business and discussion items. First up, we have the Marysville Homecoming Parade. They weren't coming?
They're not
Okay.
coming, they were just asking. They had other
That's fine.
engagements.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Everybody on the student council at other engagements?
That's what Mr. Cook told me.
Traditionally, someone has appeared.
He asked me. I
I
know.
think that's important.
It's teaching lessons.
It's a teachable moment.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what he told me.
Well, are we going to say no, they can't have the parade?
Right.
I think we needed more information.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't like the UTVs and the golf carts because they didn't give you an amount or how many or nothing like that.
Okay.
That's my only hang-up.
We got another meeting before they have this.
This is the
Other than
earliest
that,
I've
no,
ever
Jeff, I'm
received
good
it. They never are this.
Well, I feel like I heard today that regional tennis is going to be here that same day.
Yes, the Friday and Saturday that day.
Oh, this same weekend.
Yeah, the
Oh.
homecoming, and that's where the parade route is, so.
Well, that would be across the street, wouldn't
Want them to go that way to get back to the football field?
They go through the park.
Goes down to 8th Street and then south, the park.
it? They're gonna go into the park.
Into the park.
So the question you have to ask is, there gonna be a bunch of tennis team stuff parked in the park?
Where else are they gonna park?
I agree.
And in the park.
In the park.
Normally, they park in the swimming pool parking lot. That's where the buses park.
Yeah,
That
Just so
helps.
you know.
No, that
That's
helps.
normally what they do in the swimming pool parking lot.
yeah, that does.
That is, now that you brought that up, that's my second concern, and that's just a logistic thing to work out, right?
My thought is on the golf carts and UTVs is if it's somebody who's on crutches or for some reason, that's one thing. But when it's just because it's fun to tear around in something you can't normally, that's sort of a different thing.
Typically, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been to homecoming parade here in town, but they used to have the king and queen candidates on golf carts, didn't they?
No.
They
Only on the track,
Yep.
not
Okay.
on the street. They went in convertibles on the
Cars.
street.
Isn't this fairly controlled access as far as
Usually the person that
being
lines up
monitored?
all the floats, make sure they're on their spots, uses the golf cart to go around so it doesn't have to walk.
I'd like to
Yeah,
make a
it does
motion
say
that
that.
we approve the formal request to allow Marysville High School homecoming parade on Friday, October 7th, and to use UTVs and golf carts at the school administrative's discretion, yes.
There.
second?
Okay. Any further discussion?
I think we should hold off a meeting and let somebody come and ask, we can ask them questions about it.
It would probably be nice if they sent somebody,
mean-
but
I remember doing it
they
myself
did,
elsewhere.
they did fill
Long
out the
time ago.
form and stuff, which we had a problem with here a while back.
That is good.
So, I mean, yeah.
It does say golf carts and UTVs will be just for assisting the lineup, if you read it. So I'm assuming that is correct. That is what it says.
Do I need to retract my motion?
Yeah, we can vote on it.
Vote on it. You have a motion, a second, vote, see where it
You have a
goes.
motion and a second, so we will have to vote.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
5-3? 5-3.
Barron's, Throm, and Fry.
All right, next up, we have the Trail Life and American Heritage Girls Recruitment Night request.
I'll speak from it right here. We've done this the last 5 years, down behind the ball field, if you look at the picture behind it. Shoot 3D and BB guns, just single pump BB guns. They've got games and canoes and kayaks out on the lake. It's just a great night for everybody to come up for recruitment. They are, we have a range safety officer on the shooting side, and Josh over here from Impulse Archery is doing the archery range, so.
Move to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Oh, 7 and 1.
Yep.
Okay. Next, we have the Black Squirrel letter to council about the details with Wayne. Yes.
Excuse me? The Year of the Black Squirrel continues. Our celebration is Sunday. We have Squirrel Jam in our beautiful city park from 2 to 5. If you are musicians, please come and share your talents. If you are not, please come and enjoy the great music provided by our local musicians. One of the messages we're sending out is this is a great time to welcome new people to the community. Bring them with you because you're getting to enjoy great music, but at the same time you can sit and have fun with your neighbors. So it's a great way to welcome new people to our community. Specifically, we're here to talk about our Master Celebration Black Squirrel Fest on October 22nd. When you look back at the history of Black Squirrel Day, City Council has always played a significant role in this event. Those first 5 years, those first 5 Black Squirrel Days were planned by city council members and by city staff. For example, Black Squirrel Day was October 30th, 1975. The city building was open from 2 until 9, where city employees and council members were there to serve coffee, donuts, and have conversation with the community members. The next year they did something similar. Black Squirrel Day was on October 29th. From 1 to 6, they had coffee, donuts, conversations at City Hall, and then they hosted a Black Squirrel dance at the Armory that night. But then it was in 1977, that's when you see a shift in Black Squirrel Day. And it starts to look like what we know Black Squirrel Night looks like. Because in 1977, the city partnered with the Chamber of Commerce. And so the co-chairpersons for that event were Iola Henry, at that time Iola Durham, working for the city, and she partnered with Nelda Ungerer of the Chamber of Commerce. And when you talk to Iola, she said that's when the business community realized, wait a minute, there's a lot of potential here. When we put together all of these events, it starts bringing people to downtown Marysville, and it gets people into our businesses. And so that's when then the Chamber Retail Committee started to take over the event, always working in cooperation with the city and city council. But that's when, like that first year was the leg judging contest. We see churches be involved with their booths. We see music as part of it almost every year. And so as we were working on this celebration, it was really Kay Nestor at the courthouse, at the historic courthouse, who said, why don't you try to bring back some of these old activities? And that's where that concept of old-fashioned fun came. We just went back and looked year by year, what were some of the things we did, and then we reached out to different organizations in the community and to all the churches. And when you look at the letter that we sent, you'll notice almost every church, almost every organization is participating in some way. Even some of our smaller churches with, maybe 10 or 12 members said, we want to be a part of this. We're going to find a way to be involved. And so that's when you'll see like the popcorn ball booth is coming back. We have carnival games. We have people serving popcorn. We have homemade ice cream. We have pie and all of that, along with a lot of other things as well. Also, when we planned this event, it was important to the people on Broadway that all of Broadway get the love. Because sometimes it feels like there are certain parts of town or certain parts of downtown that get all of the attention. So that's why you'll notice we're going from the 500 block all the way through the 1200 block of Broadway to make sure there are activities happening all the way from one end to the other to make sure that people cross that highway and go see Mandy and her staff at the library, go up the street to see what Kay and her crew are doing at the historic courthouse. So that was all very intentional on our part to make sure the streets are filled. We've also thought about the downtown corridor in 3 sections, east, west, and center. And in those sections, we make sure there's live music from 11 to 1 and then from 2 to 4 in all 3 parts of that to make sure people are going here and there. I'm sad our city attorney isn't here this evening because we can give him credit for getting Angie Kritz and the Polka-Tunes to town, because John planted that seed to us a while ago, really in another committee, and they weren't able to come. And so when we were talking about, well, who do we want to headline this activity, we started to talk about that Oktoberfest feel, and we remembered that idea that John had, because they're a young polka band who does polka a little bit differently, and they have their own TV show on one of those Nebraska stations. So we had booked them, but we hadn't announced their arrival to the Marysville citizens, and we started to get phone calls from people in Nebraska, because Angie Kritz put it on her website and on her Facebook page that they're coming to Marysville, Kansas, and their followers said, you're going to Marysville, Kansas, we're coming down too. Which is another thing that we're noticing. Our Facebook page for the Black Squirrel activities has reached nearly 6,000 people are following and are engaged in what's going on. And when we start to analyze who's talking about what's going on, who's asking, you'll notice lots of classes. A lot of the alumni are talking about, hey, we need to come home. Plus having Denise Ryan and those Footloose dancers performing, that's another tradition that we've loved over the years. So when we look at our requests, all of our requests have stayed the same. We are going to ask for a change on the alcohol, so I'd like to talk about that last. When you look at our letter and our requests, if you have questions about anything other than alcohol, I'll be happy to answer those now.
I didn't see anything on there that seemed like it would be a problem.
Jason, are you gonna wear the black squirrel costume? That's my only question.
He's worn it before.
All right.
Yeah.
Got that under
We're
control.
yeah. It would be untradition if it wasn't that way, I think. Okay, then if there are no questions, there's been a little bit of a change in how we're going to handle some alcohol, so I'll let Ashley talk about that.
Good evening, Ashley Crowd on behalf of the Black Squirrel Fest Committee. I think you'll notice in our request we had talked about Kansas Territory selling beer, and due to some liquor licensing, we're just finding out more and more about all of their processes, and so they're not going to be able to sell alcohol on that day. But the Wagon Wheel is hopefully going to be able to do an extension of premise for us. And so the only change that you'll see on our request is actually we would like to have open container approved by the City Council from the highway at US 77 through the 500 block of Broadway. We will not ask to allow that premise to cross the state highway, but we would like to have people be able to stay within the barricaded area marked and approved by the Alcohol Beverage Corporation of Kansas within that zone.
From 10th to 5th.
It'd be similar to what we do for the Big Blue Barbecue and the Big Blue River Days, that area, just directly down Broadway from the highway to the west.
Okay.
I was going to do an extension of premise. Okay.
If there are no other questions, that's our request for October 22nd.
Okay. I don't think, if anybody else have any questions or?
Nope.
No.
I will need a
Looks-
motion
on the alcohol.
so I can put it in the minutes.
Motion on all of it so they can.
Well, and the rest of it too.
What's
Yeah, you
the-
can, but it would be separated, please.
Okay. I'll start with the alcohol request. Move to approve the alcohol request from 10th to 5th on Broadway only on October 22nd.
And time?
From 11 a.m. until 6 p.m.
11 to 6, okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 8-0.
Okay.
Then I move that we approve the Black Squirrel Committee's recommendations for October 22nd for the games and activities going on downtown Marysville.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you on October 22nd. We'll probably be back one more time, maybe in your first meeting in October, to touch base and to figure out, to make sure you've got your rolls ready to go and the donuts ordered and all that. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, tried on the costume.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have the closing of Hendricks Street for class reading of 07.
And alcohol request, both.
Those needed to be two
Separate.
separate motions?
The closing of the street and the alcohol, no, because it's just one, it's all in one spot. And they're just consuming, they are not purchasing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next we have ordinance number 1910, rezoning of tract 1196 Pony Express Highway.
Move to approve the ordinance 1910.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Fry,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Snelling,
Yes.
Beichman,
Yes.
Guaraki,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
Throm,
Yes.
8-0.
Next up, we have ordinance number 1911, rezoning. Oh, yeah, thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1911, rezoning of 510 Carolina.
Move to approve ordinance 1911.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
Fry,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Snellings,
Yes.
Beichman, Guaraki,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
Throm.
Yes.
8-0. Yep.
We don't have any notices and hearings. Next, we have the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have appropriations ordinance number 3780.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3780, amount of $342,877.61.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
Fry,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Snellings,
Yes.
Beichman,
Yes.
Guaraki,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
Throm.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, we have Austin with the staff reports.
All right, excuse me. First on my list is the infill lot map for the county, which they're creating a program for at this, I'm hoping at this moment. But they asked us, as we've talked about before, to create a map to designate areas of our community for their infill lot program, which would reduce the amount of taxes people paid to fill in with residential housing on these areas that we will designate. Before the last meeting, a committee discussed where exactly we felt that we could make the infill lots. I have the map here on page 36, and a rudimentary description of it is the majority of the map for the infill lots is in the main part of Marysville. The northern boundary, for the most part, is Otto Street. The southern boundary is Kester/Jackson Street. The western boundary is the Highway 36 bridge. And the eastern boundary, for the most part, is 18th Street, but does go to 20th Street for a small portion. There is a small section of the Keystone Addition included in this map. It is Ashbury Lane north of Timber Creek. We felt that that area had small lots on it compared to all the rest of the Keystone Addition. It seemed to fit within the program for the remaining empty lots to be included in the program. I did this map based off of our discussion before the last council meeting. If I missed something, we can change it. But if you're okay with this, you can approve it, and we can send it on to the county.
I would say that I agree with the map you've came up with, Austin.
Okay.
I think it makes sense. You know, infrastructure is already there on those properties. So that's, in the type of homes that we want to put in, fit that MO for what you've mapped out. So good job.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the map? The county program, I don't know exactly what it's going to be called, but the last I checked with the county clerk. They were still working on the paperwork. We will get, even if we approve this map, we send it into the county, we still have to sign off on the memorandum of understanding with the county to run the program. If that paperwork comes through and you don't like it, we don't sign off on it. This is just telling the county where we think we think the program would be best according to our understanding at this point in time.
Yeah, I would add that this program is strictly for properties that we deem as infill housing. It is going to be different than the neighborhood revitalization program that was open county-wide for people to build any kind of structure. This is strictly for housing.
Right.
To support our community, so.
That's correct.
Move to approve the infill lot map for the county as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Veto.
The next thing on my list is the cost share program grant, and what I'm proposing is the 7th Street corridor. I've been working on this behind the scenes for a little bit. The grant opened up, they were talking about it more than a month ago. We had an online webinar maybe a month ago to talk about this program, and they opened it up a little bit less than a month ago, saying we had a month to turn it in. It's due at the end of the week. Typically, they've been looking for projects that have been somewhat planned out already, have a little structure to them. And this is one of the projects that we had on hand where we had already had an engineer looking at 7th Street corridor. The problem was the project we looked at from Highway 36 to Calhoun was $3.3 million, and they do a max 1.5 million, and I think if they don't have that much. They couldn't do 11 projects, I don't think, if they maxed out every single time. So to make it a more palatable project, I talked with CES to see if we could phase it out. And I think what I was looking at with that Carolina to Calhoun segment was that's the main portion. That gets right in front of the depot. It beautifies the area right there, what they're trying to attain. It coincides with a discussion we've been having with a large donor who wants to move the locomotive up near the depot. Pretty motivated about that. And then, which that 1T right in front of the depot, still on city property, would probably appease that request.
That Park Smart Plaza?
The plaza. Would appease that request if the council wanted to do it that way. There are some issues that were brought to my attention. One of them I should have caught. The other one was a little bit harder to find, which will be changed before it hits the grant. This design is supposed to be where we can continue it down 7th Street. Which means there should be a ramp at each end, just like they left a ramp open at the end north of the pony statue. I will get that put into this drawing, and then they've neglected in changing over. They should have added that and left the access to the alley in the middle of the block open. So that'll be readjusted back to the original drawing. It's not necessarily a design, but it's drawing.
So Austin, you mean like an apron there at the center?
Yeah, there's a break where cars could go up the alley, or
Right.
trucks could turn in and out.
So there'd be a radius and everything there.
Right. And one of the things I did to get the price down to where it's at right now, the $1 million, I had them remove all the concrete on the west side of the project. That was where the semi parking and stuff was going to go. And I did throw some labels in there to make this more enticing to the grants. It's not saying we have to go that direction, but I've been looking at that north section as a potential childcare facility. That's one location I've been thinking about. There's multiple other locations we can talk about, but just for like that little eye-catching thing for the grant committee, hey, we're thinking about this. Same thing with the bottom. We don't have a business that can go in there, but it looks so much. Most of these grants that are coming out now are you creating jobs? We're trying. So
That part of it belongs to Cromie Lumber now currently.
right, we can set that up, make it look like we're setting it up for business, which if I remember right, Kevin was looking at building up there. So not necessarily a lie. It's just, it's catchy eye. So, but the main idea was to get all this down here developed, have a safe pathway for pedestrians, cyclists, and the likes to be able to continue getting downtown, and which is what I believe the trail and the depot really want. They're really highlighting the access. I think they had created a ADA ramp to get to the trail over the street on both sides.
Hey, Austin?
Yes.
On that, the first thing that stood out to me is the thing you won't want is right angles. Anybody who's not walking, right angles are bad. You don't want right angles on a bicycle.
But that's why I said that ramp at the end should take care of that. That's the detail.
At both ends?
Yeah, at both ends.
So the ramp will be straight, no angle, I mean.
Because the rest of the project was to go straight.
Right, to the south. What about to the north?
There was a sidewalk in the original drawing that CES put that angled out.
Angled, yeah. Is that still a future on the drawing board thing? Okay, I want to make sure that we do have that. I don't know if you've been on the trail section that the city of Beatrice did down their old rail bed, quite extensive.
Right.
But there's tons of right angles. Spoiler alert, nobody takes the right angles. You can see exactly where everyone goes, and it's not on the path.
No, the whole idea behind this was just to take that section. I don't know why it ended up the way it did, but just to take that section out that they had already created and just put it in a smaller plan to make the project more manageable for us to attain. And with this size of project, with the numbers that CES has provided, and if we get the grant, I see that our portion would be $300,000.
How would this tie into the streets as they are at Calhoun and Carolina? Since, I think the streets there are probably kind of raised because of where the railroad track went. I know on Calhoun it's rock. You can kind of build the apron to it, but how do you tie the elevation where you want it if the road is higher? As far as drainage and things, I know it's the battle of where do you start and stop a project.
Right.
But is that going to be a challenge with something like this?
I'm not going to say it's not going to be a challenge, but that's something we will have to work through with whatever engineer we choose to go through with. This right here, obviously there's been some thought put into the connection, but it hasn't been full-fledged out with survey crew, engineer deep diving into this whole thing.
I really have concerns if we don't do this at the same time. It's just going to make a bit of a mess, at least those two streets.
Right.
Just because then I mean, I guess we could cut them down and rock them in the interim, but if we don't kind of tie at least that in, then those are the edges of the project that kind of, to me, that needs to almost be part of it in order to save hassle and
That's a good
potential
point.
other issues, but.
That is a good point.
The other question I had is has this been run by, I see we have the Blue River Rail Trail group here, the Depot group, and is this kind of open for comment to them as well, I presume?
Okay, so how this project initiated with the 7th Street corridor. CES had actually put together a meeting, and for the overall project, had people come in and talk about it. So that's the first portion of this. I did send this over to the depot because as I was filling out the grant paperwork, it asked, hey, do you have a partner in mind? Okay, first thing come to mind. There's only one spot for a partner. So it's right in front of the depot. I asked Sarah Kessinger, as she's the secretary on the depot, hey, how's the depot feel about just putting their name on this? Just to give it a little bit more bolster for the grant, because they like to see partners. She sent it out to the group. There has been some conversation. I plan to have more conversations.
Okay.
This is not the end.
Yeah.
This is we want the money out of this, and then we want a right project going in right here.
I think pretty much, and I say this as somebody who's had their hands in lots of different entities that are tangentially involved in this, I think everybody's in favor of moving forward and doing something.
Right.
I want to make sure they don't think it's like whiz bang, getting blindsided out of nowhere. I mean, I think everybody's on board with something happening. They just want to make sure everybody can weigh in, of course.
And that's usually a goal with one of these projects, especially when it affects so many people. It sucks now that, and I hate to say it, I mean, there's so much money being thrown around, but they give you a grant application, and they go, okay, finish this in a month, and usually we get months. We get time to talk with our engineers, we get time to, and in fact, a lot of times they go, have open houses, have public hearings about this. They're not looking at that. They're looking at, hey, get a project together, have this written out, and tell us if you're creating jobs, and do it in a month. And it's a challenge. And then they care at the end of it is, oh, there's another round if you don't make it. And it's like, well, that's a double-edged sword. If you skip this round and go to the next one, they've already got a list of projects in mind, and those list of projects already got feedback from KDOT or whatever entity, and they are potentially a step ahead. I'm not going to say this is rushed. It's rushed compared to 2 years ago, but this is. I think this will be a good project in front of them.
At least we had this much done,
Yeah.
so we could present that much.
Yeah.
And I know traditionally, the closer you are to getting done, the more you've already put in the ground, the better it looks for getting future funds.
Right.
So this shortens the gap.
Yes.
So if it was between Carolina and the highway, then that would be really good fodder for the next project.
That's right.
Speeds it up a lot.
And I mean, I know that the state really cares about that intersection.
Yep.
The highway, so.
Yeah, no, it definitely, and again, 2 years ago, they would have said, we want a complete project. I don't know if they're still on that complete project run. I think they want to expend the money as fast as possible. I mean, they haven't said anything different. They just boom, boom, application, get it in, application, get it in.
Another question I have on this, this concrete pavement along here, is it going to be designed in such a way where, I mean, is it going to be like lay down curb? I mean, if we do the child care center and we want angle parking or things, that's the other side of it. I don't want to put concrete in the ground that we gonna go cut out in 2 years or 5 years.
Right.
I know there's a lot of details that probably need to be sorted, but.
That needs to be sorted. This plan does not show you exactly what curb, or this drawing.
Right,
Don't call it
sure.
a plan, drawing. doesn't show you those sort of details. They could be laid on curb. I just needed a definition for a street, and curb is the definition.
Gotcha.
Curb could be flat, just a valley gutter,
Right.
all that stuff.
I guess my question is, because I know, listening to people, that finishing the trail from the north side to the south side is an important thing.
Right.
Would we be better off finishing the trail and not worrying about putting any transit traffic ways in? And then building off of that. I mean, connect from the south side of the trailhead down to the highway where the trail starts.
Right.
Because this could turn into something where we spend a lot of money putting in 2 streets and a trail, and then we have a hard time connecting everything over time. So I'm just throwing that out there, because what kind of traffic is going to follow this is what I look at. And I'm just throwing that, there has to be no discussion, but just thinking about the idea of having 2 roads on each side, and we get how many blocks here? 2?
2, yep.
And we gain the 2 blocks of the trail, but we spend a lot of money on the 2 roads that honestly go to nowhere, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, just throwing that out there. I'd rather see the trail get connected down to the park.
And then build out this way rather than.
Over time,
yeah.
yes.
Here's my thoughts looking at it. I might be way out in left field, but I think you're taking a large, wide open area that you could use for a lot of different things, and you're sticking a trail right down in the middle that almost makes it unusable for almost anything else. I mean, it looks neat, but I don't know why you wouldn't try and keep that trail on one side or the other, so you could have it as wide open as you could for a road or for just parking. And I know they've talked about RV parking and a lot of the other different things. With the curve and everything, you make it difficult to use the rest of the space for other things, I think. Whether it's just events or parking or, semis, things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm completely in favor of getting the trail through there. But I don't know if you want the trail to take up basically most all the area.
So like if you took the blue line and shifted it to the east side, and then you later could put in a 2-lane street or something on the west side?
Something like that. Well, it's like 7th Street, south. I mean, that block there and by the Hovering Center. It's a neat area, but it's so cut up, it's not useful for a lot of things. I mean, it's neat, but it's just difficult to get a vehicle through there. You got to kind of make turns. It doesn't work well for parking things much in that area.
Austin, is the grant approval contingent upon a road going in now, or is it something that we could do the trail and build off of, expand later?
That's a good question. From all that I've been taught in going through these grant cycles, like I mentioned before, KDOT 2 years ago was harping complete project. We want you to get from A to B. We want it connected 100%, or we're not looking at it. So that's where my hesitation comes in. They might have waned a little bit, and that's where we're waning right now by just doing the 2 blocks and not the third one to the south. So that's just in my opinion, is the hesitation. Where this design came into place, because there was a desire of having the locomotive and caboose in the area. That's how that plaza area came. There's more space if you want to use it for event space and all that stuff, if we want to create it that way. That's one aspect of it. So that curve was in there so you could have that locomotive and everything. The reason for the middle of the road was another KDOT request. We tried, looking at using the what do you call the brick area? The,
Platform?
the platform, the platform, of the depot.
Platform behind the depot.
Yeah, the platform, of the depot. The brick does not work in their eyes as a transportation site for cyclists, for ADA purposes, all that other stuff. So we had to create another 10-foot area. Well, we wanted, in the first place, wanted to put it off to the side and just connect it, add another 10 feet onto the edge. Their their experts at KDOT said they didn't want the cyclists or the cyclists in general, they didn't want them left out of the traffic flow. They wanted them to have it, that specifically down the middle, in between. That's where that design recommendation came from. They said, don't put it off to the side, you're just sectioning them off, put them in the
But they
middle.
typically, I mean, bike lanes are usually off on the shoulder of most.
Well, on existing streets, but on new construction, I think this is a common, not always, but I mean, in cities, they kind of, they do it different ways. But I mean, I'm kind of combining what I was saying about Caroline and Calhoun and what Jeff's saying about, you know, the trail being the priority target here. It seems like, I know it's like what you're saying, Austin, that the state prefers them being in kind of, we'll say, the median between two traffic lanes. If that could be eschewed and we move the trail to the east, could not the streets of Carolina and Calhoun, like, I'd rather put concrete connecting Carolina and Calhoun, fixing those problems and doing the trail. That's still connecting. I mean, that's still connecting two different kinds of transportation. It's still solving, and that solves the water problem. It gets the trail finished. Is that something we can consider, or do you just think there's no chance of that flying?
We can consider it. I'm not going
I know
to
the
turn. I'm
time
not
is a
going to turn it.
thing.
I'm not going
I
to
get
turn
it.
it down. I mean, it's not my place to turn it down. We can consider all aspects of it. This design has just been in a long time coming. It's been through multiple phases of grant applications and design phases. So that's just where we're at. So if we want to turn to a different way, we can turn a different way.
I think go out and look for a grant to connect the south side of the trailhead to Center Street.
Okay.
Is what I think that's what the people that are passionate about the trail want. The roads on top of it, I just don't see the traffic going here to spend that kind of money, in my opinion. But
I mean, I'd like to see, if there is a lot, I mean, I think it's a great future project, but I agree. I think the immediate priority is the trail versus the trail and streets. It feels like splitting the baby a little bit, whereas if you connect the trail, then you can work on the streets from there. I agree with Jeff.
And I guess that's where my question came in, is would we even get this if there were not roads considered here?
Professionally, I'd probably say no. They'd look at, oh, you want a 10 feet wide piece of concrete?
But what if the roads are Caroline and Calhoun? Those are roads.
That way?
They're still on the ends, and they're the crossings for the trail, which they need done. I mean, that's something that people who don't use the trail will use as well. I mean, that does rope in a different group of people, taxpayers.
So I'll bring it back to the questions on the grant. What transportation problem does this solve? Does this create jobs? And what was the other thing? Those are two of the main questions.
But I guess I gotta go back to the creating jobs thing. Where is that at, looking at this map? Potential new business over by Pepsi, I'm assuming.
That's Chromie. That's
Chromie.
Chromie lumber.
Chromie.
Yep.
I don't know what that is. Potential childcare facility?
But those would be applicable to those streets as well, because they would front Carolina and Calhoun.
So
Yeah, they'd be on the front of both those streets, yes, they would.
So I mean, that
So-
seems like you could make the same argument as here.
So at this point, we would be aiming at, if we want to change everything, we would be aiming at the spring application process.
I think if we come up with a plan and sell it the right way, that's what we should do.
Okay.
Because the objective is to complete the trailhead, right?
Right?
It's not to put streets where not a lot of people are gonna drive.
Well, that also solved.
We can always add that later on, sorry.
That also solved the depot's issue of creating a venue they are proud of. Because right now, they're avoiding using that side because trucks go down it, throw up dust, all that stuff.
But if the trail were moved closer to the depot, then that would create a green space buffer between the platform
Yes,
and that dust.
to the west of the trail.
Or create a bigger problem.
How
If I'm
so?
having an event at the depot, I don't want a bicycle group riding through.
Well, they do that now. There's no way you can keep people from that.
Well, you're kinda mean.
And generally, it's not gonna be a
No,
group
the
anyway.
depot, the depot bricks are at the depot bricks.
Yeah, you'd have to put it on the other side.
But this would be outside the bricks.
Yeah,
I-
it's
I know.
definitely outside the bricks.
I know. How far outside the bricks?
Far enough to leave a drainage area in between.
Because what
And a
this
locomotive.
does moves them clear out there, so they're away from an event that's going on.
I'd say that seems like a low priority problem, doesn't it?
That depends. You're the person that's renting the, venue.
But a bicycle going by versus some jackwagon with a loud exhaust?
On a road.
On a road you're supposed to stay on?
Or the dust. I'd rather have a bicycle than the dust, so.
I'm just playing devil advocate.
Yeah.
I have a
get that.
bicycle too, and I wouldn't want a bicycle riding through my event.
But that's not through the event, because that's public right of way.
enough.
It's public right of way. It's meant to be used by the public.
Okay.
That's just my
Same
take.
argument for the guy driving by with the loud exhaust.
Well, correct, but I'm saying that's more disruptive.
Same argument, it's public right of way.
Okay. Yeah, but that's.
I think
one
we're
of those
beating a
is
dead
illegal,
dog.
But that's neither here nor there.
So I'll go back to my original question. Do you guys want me to submit this as is to see where we get? Or do we want to defer it till the spring and have more conversation, which is always welcome, and figure out a different way to go about it?
I think we should keep the foot on the gas as far as the conversation and hewing this plan with all stakeholders, and then take that little more measured approach. I don't want to feel like we did this and then crap, we didn't think of this, and I wish we would have done it different. As much as I want to see it done like breaking ground in October, I still think a little delay is worth it.
But this is the plan that was a pre-approved.
Kinda. I mean, it's based on
Jumping off.
plan. Yeah.
We paid for this plan.
So is that pre-approved by,
No, the council paid for
okay,
this plan.
all right.
Yeah. For the overall 7th Street corridor plan.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is part of the original plan on the last, okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're going.
That had input from the trail and
Everybody.
the depot and everybody.
I mean, this section right here that's in front of you is not without problems, and they have been shown to me. The group has politely said, hey, we got issues with this, which is fine, and I want to make it right. This is, my intent was just to take a section out of the existing plan that we had pre-approved, or that we had spent money on, and try to get some money for it. But if that's the direction, if that's not the direction the council wants to go, that's up to you guys. I mean, that's completely fine too.
Money no object, that plan, if we could just swing it and put the whole thing together, it'd be great.
Right.
But since that's not in the cards, it's kinda like our big Lakeview plan. It'd be great if we had the money.
That's the reason why I'm bringing it for you. I want to get started.
Well,
But you know, like you
I'll
said,
award
Todd,
that.
there's a lot of cutting down on 7th Street.
Yeah, I think
You look over here at Carolina, what the difference in grade is, where the railroad's built up and down at Calhoun, and you know, by the time you bring all that down,
Yeah. I feel like the existing, I know 7th Street corridor is technically a street, but we'll say the existing streets and the trail are the two hot priorities.
right.
Because they're the ones that, I mean, everything else branches off of that.
So, I want a consensus, so that way that way I know where I'm going.
So what's council think? You want to look into it a little bit more and then aim for
I think we
a
go
spring
with-
application or?
Can we get like 5 minutes of input from our guest? After they've listened to us for 20?
Mayor's discretion.
Mayor's discretion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they're not on the agenda.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't think they're
Or
gonna
if you
come
want to
up
have a
here and-
committee meeting with, with some of these groups as far as that goes
Like
too.
an ad hoc committee?
Yeah, that'd be
With
fine.
Depot and
Yeah,
the
that'd be
trail
fine.
and,
With the street committee then, or who, or you're making a new committee?
I
I mean, invite.
Do we
think
have
he's
an
talking
ad hoc
ad hoc,
meeting?
so.
do we have an ad hoc, childcare facility committee?
No.
No.
No. Do you want the
Everybody
street
was
committee to
invited.
meet with these
Everybody was
groups is what
invited.
I'm asking?
Yeah, well, I think that'd be all right.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
It's open conversation, and that's what we need to do. I
For
mean,
sure.
If we try to keep it, so whatever. Mayor's,
Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, I've just thrown it out there. I could put this grant together and see if we get money, and if we do, we can turn it down.
How much can you, how much can you tweak something once you get the money?
can you make it in phases?
This is a phase.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of
but
the
I-
phases.
but I
Well,
mean-
no, this in
If we
phases.
get the money and you're like, oh boy, we discovered that we need to do
I-
this and this.
That goes back to my original,
Yep.
hey, I'm making it as complete as possible that I think this is as broke down that they would like to see. That's my opinion, that's my experience. To go any further, I'm hesitant to go that. Just to put a 10-foot wide sidewalk wherever out in that street, whether it be up next to the brick or not, that just seems like a project they might not look, unless,
It's not a sidewalk, it's a multi-lane recreational
Right.
pathway.
right.
It is. Multimodal. 'Cause it's
Multimodal.
on foot,
Well,
people bike.
as much as they are looking for that, I don't know, and I could be 100% wrong on this. I don't know that they'd like just, hey, stick that sidewalk next to that gravel road and we'll be good, in the middle of town. I don't know. I would love to be wrong on that, because that would make it a so much easier project that we can get people going on. Yeah.
I don't know, personally, I don't like the division with the road, that's trail, and the road.
It seems to make a sense where, to some extent, by the wagon wheel and where that is and where that was, but it seems to make less sense the further you get away from that,
Yeah,
to me.
it does. I mean, if you had your street side by side, and then have them pull off, on the other side, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it were all green space or something, that'd be one thing, but
I mean, I like the
Feels like-
curve in it, where
Yeah.
it follows and stuff, but I just.
build separate like that, you're just building twice as much curb.
Yeah.
Because you're building curbs on both
Both
sides of each side.
Yeah, on two streets.
Curbs
yeah.
are expensive.
There is industry down there, so it is hard for them to get semis around when you split the street like that.
So
Plus
what are
you're
we
doing
looking for-
drainage, you're doing
What are we
two
looking at
drainage
spending on
basins.
this block here from center to?
I don't have, I don't have that estimate. I mean, it's
Wasn't it like 3-point-some million for all of it?
for all of it, but that includes all this concrete up to the west.
Right.
And they took the trees out along here, which we would have a ability to expand that. This right here is a trail with, grass beside it. Just to make it a nice green, nice manageable space that looks like a trail.
And we could easily plant trees.
And we could easily
like
plant
we did on the
trees.
south,
Yeah,
in the park.
trees aren't a big deal to put in.
It'd be good to have, but. it can come
In a
later.
rail bed full of diesel fuel.
Trees will soak it up.
But that's where this is at. So I will go in whatever direction.
Personally, I think we need to apply for the grant. If we get it and we want to change stuff, then we can refuse it and reapply.
Does refusing it hurt our chances in the future?
No. I mean, if the person we tell no to, maybe that's in their mind, but it shouldn't technically give us any negatives. It gives them, especially if we refuse it in the right way, we can show that we're actually thinking about the project.
My fear is the right way is probably honest, and the honest answer would be we whipped it together too quickly without getting our plans in order, which is also not necessarily a feather in our cap.
That's
for
not the right
future.
way.
I'd
That's
say,
not
is
the right
there
way
a
I was
more
thinking
delicate,
about it.
a more
Just being
pragmatic way to put that,
Yeah,
I
it's,
guess?
hey, we've been thinking about this project, it's not gonna fit exactly as we thought, which is the truth.
Well, I don't know.
And unless, I mean, they might go, hey, how do you want this? And we submit another plan and they go, okay, that's fine with us, because they've already allocated the money. Or shown that they've allocated the money, however they want to show it. It might be easier just to adjust the plan with it. So if you don't want to apply, which is 100% fine, we can go that way. We can apply and try our best to get it. We could just move on and plan for the next round.
Apply for it.
Apply.
I make a motion, we apply for the grant. We roll the dice, in my opinion, and we move forward if awarded the grant based on the consent of the council.
Okay.
All right.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Veto.
All right. The next thing on my list is something that I got approached about.
Austin, before we move on, can we still have these ongoing conversations?
Oh no, that
Can
was
we
never
still-
gonna stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way grants work in general is we put a drawing. This is rudimentary in aspects of drawings. It's just, hey, we've thought about this. We've got a plan. We've figured out approximately how much money it is. Here's what we're thinking. We get approved. We start talking about what actually needs to go in there.
So, I mean, I know it's up to the mayor, but do we, the street committee want to meet with the shareholder, we'll call them?
Well, I mean, that's up to you
Stakeholders.
guys if you want to have a committee meeting, but.
I mean, I'm not on the street
you
committee, but I'm in favor of that idea.
I think we should.
It's a good idea.
Soon?
Yeah, I'd assume soon.
I would think so.
I'm not on that committee, but.
Yeah, we need to find out if anybody else in the community has other plans for completing the trailhead, in my mind, before we get too carried away.
On street,
I am as
okay.
well.
You three.
Yeah.
Kevin, Kyle, and Jeff, maybe?
And who?
Is it Jeff? Are you on street? You're on police and?
He's on street.
I think he's on
He's on street.
You were on street too.
He's on street.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Working on daycare too, you know.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get it straight.
No, the plan was to keep talking, so keep talking. That's important. Any other questions?
No?
Okay. The next thing on my list is something I was approached about. It's a national fitness campaign. And in Kansas, Blue Cross Blue Shield is sponsoring or paying out grants, quote unquote, as far as getting these body weight facilities in communities around Kansas. Included is the slideshow that the guy for the National Fitness Campaign showed me in his presentation. I got it last week, and so I told him I'd present it to you guys, whether you had any ideas of where this could go, if you guys even wanted to participate in it. It's a $50,000 grant to help construct an outdoor bodyweight training facility in our community. You see the slideshow. If you had a chance, they had a video talking about it. If the council's interested in pursuing this opportunity, we would need to find a possible location and raise/provide up to $140,000. One thought, the first thing that came to my mind was where Simmons was located down in City Park. City Park is highly, whether you like it or not, that's just the thought that came. It's a highly traveled park. It's next to the trail, which is what they were trying to look at for activities. Lots of people there. So that was my thought. That's not the end-all be-all. So they broke it down. They finally got at the end of the presentation to where the money was at, and that's how I got the $140,000. $50,000 grant, $142,000 overall for the court. We can pay for optional art to go on the backside. I don't know if we can localize that art, which would be ideal. Get some squirrels on the back, on the back of that. But that's $25,000. So with the grant, it was $92,000. If we were to do the concrete slab, they take $20,000 out. Installation, they have a group, or we could install it ourselves. But they said anticipate $27,000 for that installation. The catch, all the catch is, this is a grant application. They made it, so if you guys say you want to go for it, it's not guaranteed that we get to $50,000. I don't know how that all works, but they're trying to measure interest before putting anything together.
I have no desire to pursue this. And I don't think the people that elected me into office have a desire to pursue this, so.
I guess I'm of two minds. If it's one of those funds can be raised from community stakeholders, I used that word 20 times tonight, and, entities, maybe the hospital, health department, the county, I don't know. That's one thing. I have been on a lot of places that have these, and it is a mixed bag. I've been a couple places where it's pretty plain that they don't get used much, but I've been places where they're used extensively. Now, the difference between these places, I really don't know. I think we should try to probably find out and get information from the community as far as if people think that they would use it. If there are people out there like, yeah, I'd really like to put that part of my workout routine, people who walk on the trail or whatever down through the park, that it makes sense. Because I don't think it makes sense to throw a whole lot of effort at something if it's not going to get used. My concern with the Simmons location, I think it'd be good for some reasons, but depends on how it's designed. As far as, I don't know if you have to go through the leaf blower every couple days. It seems like it'd be difficult to keep clean under a lot of trees. Although the shade's nice.
Maintenance period, after it's put in.
Well,
and that's the thing
And
too.
who's going to take care of that?
I've seen some of them that look like they wear really well and some don't. I don't know if that's the manufacturer, powder coating versus what.
It's like we're in Kansas. It's not like we have 70-degree weather all year. It's sunny and nice.
You got about 4 months out of the year,
Exactly.
you're not gonna touch it.
Yeah.
Do we have to keep snow?
Well, that's
ice
just
off of
it, the snow and the rain and the.
How would you keep ice
It'd
off
be,
of that
I'd like,
without ruining the?
it'd be good to know if, I see Blue Cross Blue Shield in Minnesota and places where they probably have lots of snow.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of curious to know more background about how they deal with that, if they just close it or what they do. I don't think it's an awful idea. I think it just needs some exploration.
Okay.
And it looks like from this Kansas map that, I don't know where they are in southern Kansas, but the three up above look like they're in pretty major.
Kansas City, Topeka.
Topeka, of course.
What's funny is the ones I've seen traveling that seem to get more use are in smaller towns. It's the ones in cities that don't. I don't know. I could theorize, but
I'm gonna go with Jeff on this one, I'm not.
I don't know.
We got $140,000, we can find somewhere else to use
Again,
it, like a street.
I'm not
Well,
recommending we spend a city penny on this.
Ballparks.
My thoughts are if I thought people
efforts.
would use it, and I'm not convinced whether people would. Now, I guess if people started contacting me and saying, oh, we would love it.
Yeah.
But if I had $100,000 to spend, I know we've talked before about it, because we tore out the basketball court for the fire station. We talked a couple times about a basketball court somewhere at City Park. And I think you would get more use out of, honestly, that than
Yeah,
this
and,
probably.
and I think we could do some really fun things with where the Simmons was, besides this even, I think involving that, or a small stage, or
Yeah.
both. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, but, I don't know, I guess I'm of the opinion, it'd be interesting if it's not too much work to get a little more information on what other cities have seen, or how they handle it, just for future fodder for discussion, but.
$100,000, we could build a new
But here's the
bathroom
thing
in
though.
City Park.
Here's the thing though,
Yeah,
this
and that
isn't
would-
140,000 that, one more time, for those in the back, not city funds, I'm saying is if there's local organizations like the hospitals, like, we'd love to put 20,000 towards something.
Yeah.
That we can facilitate, because they aren't gonna put bathrooms at the park, and they aren't gonna put a basketball court at the other park, and they aren't gonna do, that's not that money, that's,
And they may not wanna drive two businesses out of town.
Yeah.
well, I don't think,
No, you
I
got
don't
two
think this
gyms.
is gonna
Yeah,
This is
I don't know
not
if
the
this
same
would be that
thing.
much. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
We're not driving the school out by putting in basketball, I mean, the basketball program, this is not competitive, it's a completely different thing. I don't know. Maybe they'd have problems with it, maybe they won't. Again, that's why you get community input, so.
And I'm with Todd. I mean, with my background in kinesiology, obviously, I see that this is a potential for an important part of the community, but in the amount of public health courses I've taken, it comes down to self-efficacy and intrinsic motivation on whether people want to use it or not. So, that's kind of 50-50 if you can get it, but I think it would merit some further exploration on what other towns see and,
Yeah. Somebody's done one of these. Somebody similar to us has done it. I'd just be curious to see how that worked. Maybe the local gyms were mad, maybe the school used it. I have no idea.
You're not seeing it much north, are you? Maybe Lincoln or Omaha.
I bet there's a bunch in California and Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where it's warm all the time.
Awesome.
And there's a lot of
It's
people
awesome.
working out. They just have a fitness
Right.
culture we don't have.
Yeah.
I was just curious what, in Kansas,
We have a
where
beer
there was
drinking
any.
culture they don't have,
Oh,
so
good.
there's that.
There was only 5 that I could see in Kansas where they had the
A little
dogs.
bit of both.
Yeah, they're all on the eastern side of Kansas.
Yeah.
On the eastern.
But I'm assuming those are like proposed sites? but-
Oh, the blue dots are because that one's way western Kansas, and I'm thinking, man, how do they get around the snow?
Yeah.
Yeah, northwestern Kansas looks like.
Yeah, cool idea though. I mean,
Yeah.
completely good to bring to us,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
so that's all it was. So I can ask more questions and see if we can get more information. Maybe one of the other communities will have their perspective. Maybe we get perspective from a community, not specifically for the National Foundation or Fitness campaign.
You should encourage some, your city administrator friends to get their cities to do it so they can be guinea pigs. No pressure.
Great idea, Todd.
Yep.
And don't let them do that kind of thing to you.
Don't
What we're talking about.
Don't fall for that.
Again, don't frame it that way.
Yeah.
When we're down.
They don't watch these, do they?
Yeah. They'd probably be the only ones watching this.
Very-
Okay. All right, last thing on my list is financials. General fund received an increased amount of revenue due to franchise fees finally coming in and some of the fire contracts money coming in. Both the water and sewer funds saw a balance increase as we had no major expenditures. Sales tax fund saw a minor increase in balance as we had expenditures for demolition of the apartments and finalization of last year's curb and gutter. All in all, actually, general fund's looking pretty good. Should get through the end of the year. I think we have, as long as we maintain our expenditures and our revenue, I think we'll end the year pretty well. So any questions on financials? Other than that, I didn't have anything left on my report.
All right, next up, the standing committee reports. Does anybody have anything on street?
Spring Street was moving quickly.
They opened it today.
I was gonna say.
Did they?
They opened it today.
I was
Yeah.
watching them.
This afternoon, this morning it was still closed.
Yeah.
They were dang close. I figured with the cure time that it would have probably happened either today or tomorrow.
Lynn's in line looking at 18th Street. I know Steve's been trying to talk to the guy up there, but every time they think they're done on 18th Street putting the line in, they want to do something else.
I think they were working on getting Frank Marshall.
They're starting it, I've heard, Monday.
Yeah.
Leave 18th to last, and
Yeah, I mean, if the other
I seen they
projects,
started down here on the highway, putting curb and gutter in.
if that other project's getting in the way, yeah, they're probably saving that for last. So, but they're getting stuff done, and people are apparently happy about it, which is great.
So, do we know, have we heard from Hall Brothers on North Street and 11th Road?
They haven't given us a date yet.
We should have asked Rob while he was here. It's just, here they wanted our business.
We almost always get, like last year, wasn't it?
It's late.
October?
It's last.
It's usually at the end of the year, beginning of the year.
It's when they get back to the area.
Yeah.
Is when they
We're doing
usually-
highways right now, because it's,
They're just east from Seneca to, at least where they're going now. So.
Let them finish that first.
Huh?
Let them finish that.
I know.
That'll get it.
Jeez,
Yep.
30-minute drive took me 50 minutes.
all right, anything else on the street? Water, wastewater? Parks and Rec?
Yep.
I got something on that. Go ahead.
Just what we discussed at our meeting. I don't know, Austin, you wanna elaborate on that a little bit further?
Okay, we talked about the pool, and how we are going to prepare for next year. We set, a timeline of getting stuff done by November, specifically, so policy updates, and then, there was like two other things that we were talking about. Do you remember that?
Well, one of them was to get the training, see if we can get the training done in December and then, or January, to get those people going. And that we would have some training in the spring, longer training in the spring.
Policy updates, setting a schedule for next year,
And the wages.
and the wages.
Policy and wages in November.
So we set it by November, so we can set our next year up faster. Getting prepared, making sure we have a manager as early as possible, and then getting applications out there as soon as we can for the lifeguards to apply. But we wanted to maintain a timeline for staff and the council to know, have their expectations ready to go. So we just wanted the paperwork done the next couple months. Anything else you want to talk about the pool as far as that meeting?
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing we talked about was the lake. We had the residents from the lake come in to discuss their requests, their concerns. I felt it was a pretty productive meeting. There were some concerns going back and forth, talked through their policy, their proposal. We also talked about how the city has a 30-foot easement through there for, as it states, public
Utilities and access.
utilities and access. which our attorney read that as a public access for fishing around the pond, or at least on this side of the lake, that we have that easement.
And was that 30 feet from where they marked it at from the bank west, or?
That's 30 feet from the pin. There are some, wherever the pin's at in relation to the lake, we don't have that, I don't have that marked as of right now. There are some other aspects that we haven't dived into, our attorney has looked into and has knowledge regarding. So before we talk about that portion, we're sticking with, we have a easement for public access. So after that meeting, everybody cordially left. The next day, I received 2 emails, both saying the same thing, that the residents at the lake are withdrawing their proposal from consideration. I sent them an email back saying, thank you for the conversation. We will still try to maintain safety around the lake for your families. That was my response to both of them. So at this point in time, we don't have a proposal in front of us from the residents, but we still should be looking to increase the ability for people to use the lake, especially on city property that is specifically lined out as city property, as a goal anyways, and making the lake a better place to be for all residents and citizens to utilize as public fishing ground. So that's where we're at with the lake itself and residents.
I'd like to apologize for missing that meeting. It was just a day off when I marked it down.
I don't think it would be a bad idea, and we talked about some signage, but I don't think it would be a bad idea. Some signs out there that just say don't litter.
No littering, yeah, that's.
And it would also be nice to have something out there that lets people know that it is a public access lake and you do have the right to fish along the shoreline. Because I think there are a lot of signs out there that kind of confuse people when they go out of what exactly they can and can't do.
I just don't like how we're being told to control all the vegetation around the lake when you're taking away the bait fish habitat.
Yep.
You know, you gotta leave some of that stuff there.
Yep. Agreed.
It is nicer for the kids can fish there along the shore and not get tangled up and all that. But as a fisherman, I know you don't want to have it all cleared off because you kind of need some structure there. There's still plenty of structure in the north and around. But I have heard good positive things about cleaning it up, though. I have heard more people utilizing it, which is good.
Right.
So.
Any other questions, comments about the Parks and Rec meeting we had the other week?
Okay. Anything else on Parks and Rec?
Yes, apparently there's some holes around the lights at Feld Field. If we could get some dirt up there, that would be fantastic.
On the new lights?
Yes.
Yeah, to where all the trenches.
Some trenches
Oh,
were.
okay.
Yeah, they said
Settled.
it's really bad.
Okay.
Especially seeing so softener's going up there now.
Has he started?
Teams are out.
Practicing.
Practicing going on.
Okay. Anything else in Parks and Rec? Cemetery and Airport? Police and Fire?
Police and Fire Committee met.
Yeah, we did have a committee meeting.
I don't know that I'm the best person to give a recap, but the 2 bullet items in our discussion were aligning the marijuana sentencing guidelines by ordinance with state statute. We pretty much said it makes sense for us to just match those up with the state statute as far as maximums and the punishment involved. Since the state's changed the classification of it, we might as well do the same, make it match, because that's why we had it the way we did before. The other one was we discussed the broadening or expansion of the UTV on public streets ordinance. Had some discussion about, you know, some of the nuances of the proposals as far as opening it to golf carts, flagging requirements, light requirements, signaling requirements. The kind of consensus of the council, of the committee, was to not pursue it at this time, but also not to make a formal recommendation, but to rather release it back to the council for further discussion. Does that sound about right, Colleen?
Well, I thought we wanted it changed to include the flag, but after.
And the placement of the stickers.
Right,
Because right now there's not, there's clarification, my understanding is it's in the pamphlet they could get, but it's not in the ordinance, so that on the fly, it's hard for them to see if something's registered or not.
Yeah, it's not universal. Some people are putting it on the front of the vehicle and they don't want to, yeah.
It's not readily
They would like
visible.
to have it on the back, so.
But after talking with Matt for quite a while, we kind of tabled the idea of including golf carts.
Yeah, he had some concerns. as
Well,
the
I
committee
would
members.
say, and I don't want
I don't know.
to have the police department, they said that they would, whatever
They'd
council
enforce
decided,
whatever we
they don't have a problem with it. And they said they could make it work, and they have made it work in some larger, I think it was Lenexa has it,
Yeah.
but,
But
but the caveat is, it was only streets 25 miles an hour or less.
And that was a point of discussion, was the speed limit of streets. They said that's a common way to kind of restrict it, is to limit the speed of streets you can cross. Part of the idea would be places like 11th Road where the highway speed limit is high. It
Higher
would
than
be
the-
perceived as more dangerous because it'd be more difficult for vehicles to stop. Also, an impact would be more detrimental. Another one was controlling where they crossed highways. You can require them to cross only at stoplights, but we did discuss that being a little difficult since 20th Street is a T, and 10th Street is a T, as a highway on one end,
Right.
and you can't travel along the highway, so it really is only 14th and 8th.
And he said the way the state statute is, that they cannot cross a street where the speed limit is higher than the street they're on. That's the state statute for golf carts. So, right, am I right?
It's something like that. I don't remember if that was how it was
Because
phrased.
that totally eliminated 11th Road, because the highway's going faster than, so they would only be able to cross it.
And admittedly, people are crossing there now.
Right.
And that was discussed too, was, you know, given our current ordinance, have there been, you know, citations issued and cases prosecuted as far as breaking the ordinance, and the answer is no.
We've had a lot of them come and be tagged because they were told.
For UTVs.
For UTVs.
Oh, yeah, it's been more corrective action and
Correct.
teaching moments.
There you go, there you
Yeah.
go.
Right,
That's
and that's what Matt had said, usually they use that to teach moment, so.
But the long and short of it is, the Police and Fire Committee was not particularly inclined to expand it, but we're not formally recommending not expanding it, more referring it back to the council for further discussion. So here we are.
I think the only thing that Matt specifically said, he was not in favor of trying to split the line on electric versus gas powered.
Correct. He said that's too tough for them. We kind of
Difficult for
discussed,
them to tell from a distance whether it's gas or electric.
when they do an initial registration, they could probably catch it, but on the fly, that gets.
No,
No.
it'd just
You
be
know,
if you have a sticker or
Yeah,
not.
let me see if you have a tailpipe. I mean, it starts to get a little in the weeds. It's not their job.
Yeah, no.
So what you're saying is a discussion for a later date?
It's,
Isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
If we-
whether
if you
that
wanna
later date's
change it at
now or
all.
next year.
would you like to change the ordinance for me to add the visibility flag and the placement of the sticker?
I don't think we do anything right now,
Oh, okay.
in my opinion. We just kind
I
of
mean, that was kind of.
Because I haven't gotten absolutely anybody saying something about it.
No,
so
me either.
I just say,
Shockingly.
just
We've
stay
got
stay
nothing
where
at
we're
City
at.
Hall.
One person, got an email. But I think the change that does make sense is the sticker change.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I think that makes sense just for our guys to make it easier for them.
And that was his ask,
Yeah.
really.
Right, it was.
Yeah.
It was the police ask.
And I would like his, where do you want it?
He wants it on the driver's rear. On the
Driver's- so that way
Right
it's
behind the
first thing
driver
they
on the
see.
rear.
No, I'm good with
Yeah.
that. I think we ought to make that change.
Which is what
for
we
sure.
put in the pamphlet, but.
And
it
I
is-
like the visibility flag.
But the
He-
flag's
he-
not a bad deal, because a lot of these UTVs are
Camo.
camouflage, yeah, and that was brought up at the committee meeting too, they're made to blend in.
Right.
They're not made to stick out.
Well,
Um,
I guess I'll move that we amend the ordinance, to add the visibility flag and the sticker placement per the chief of police request.
Okay.
We draft it for.
Okay, for you to do next meeting, okay?
I second.
And that will take effect, like when they re-register the ATV.
Supposedly, yeah, that would,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I
By
would.
January 1,
January
we'll
1.
start buying the new stickers.
Okay, yep.
Would that be okay?
As long as
Yeah,
people don't freak out, they gotta come in and do it.
No, your
now.
grandfather
No,
for the
it's-
time period.
And if they want to add their flags right away, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's their
Yeah.
deal.
And
Power to
we're just doing safety flags, right?
High visibility, that's
High
what they're
vis
called.
flags.
Yeah. Because we didn't specify
No.
Okay,
a color.
I just seconded, didn't I?
Yes, Todd and Jeff.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 8-0. Getting back, because I've had a couple people hit me up about the marijuana thing. And I would like to state that this does not affect, as far as I know, people that are dealing marijuana or are caught with large amounts of
No,
marijuana.
that's
It is
felony.
specifically small quantities,
Correct.
and it's giving the judge the leeway to set that fine where he
All
or
the same-
she feels fit at a lower level, more in line with state.
Yes, all the state statutes as far as distribution and near schools and all those rules are still in place,
still in
that we're
place.
not messing with any of that.
Yeah, we're not like going soft
No,
on,
still.
drugs or,
What?
I'm just trying to clarify this because I've had a couple
What?
people
Class A
hit me
to
up
a
about
Class
it.
B.
Yeah, that's
This will
what I-
become a
That's right.
Class B.
Yeah.
So it'll be 500 to 1,000. Right now, it's 1,000 to 2,500.
It's nothing to 1,000.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
It's up to 1,000, that's the
Right,
language.
Up to 1,000, up to 1,000.
Because realistically, like our judge said, it's awful difficult to get any amount of money from a lot of people who get in front of him. So as much flexibility as he has to make sure appropriate remediation takes place, it's good.
Okay. Anything else on police and fire?
I could put this later, but
Okay.
police and fire were great help at the gravel dash this weekend. We had a little bit, I was involved with that, little bit of a hiccup when we realized the timing of the people leaving on Friday was literally morning rush hour. And so a couple of quick calls and they had officers there and they brought a sheriff's deputy down too and they let him out in style and safety. So awesome. And I saw they posted a lot of stuff too this weekend as far as, helping out with the event and the kids with the helmets and things. I think just really, really good community relations. I heard that remarked upon by other people from outside the community, how great it was, how involved. So that's it.
Okay. Admin and finance?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a sheet laying on the table tonight. We hauled some loads on our CD demolition, economic development demolition grant that people's throwing whatever they want if they tore a house or garage down. It had furniture in it, it goes in there. We haul it to landfill, we have to sit there and separate it.
It does say structural.
And it says structural material, so we need to get it rewrote somehow so it says structural material, no household trash, couches, etc. in the loads, so.
I'm surprised that the people tearing the buildings down are letting them do that. Both of the houses I had tore down, they specifically told me, you get all the stuff out of there that's trash, and they went through it before they'd even tear it down.
There's a lot
Because
of
if they give you a bid, and then they gotta haul it all and have it hauled off instead of going to the CD pit.
Exactly.
That's cutting into their cost.
We had
So,
a guy the other day come down, wanted to do it in a 4-yard. The 4 yards don't go to,
a 4-yard?
a 4-yard container, but the 4 yards do not go to the CD pit. They go in the back of a garbage truck, goes to the
Tearing
dump,
it
which goes to.
Down
Ham's
over
Corp.
like a 2-year period, or?
No, it was just what he had left, he just wanted to put it that
Okay,
way.
4 yards ain't gonna get you very far in tearing a building down, but,
So,
okay.
it just needs to be touched up a little bit more to.
On the application, so that it's clear to them when they,
Pick it up and that they have
and
it.
that you
it
agree that
says
that's what it is
strictly
saying, so when somebody
structure,
asks
not
us in the
trash.
office.
Okay. So what do we want, I mean, do we wanna bring the ordinance in front of council and have you say?
I don't know
exactly
that
what
the
change, or
ordinance
just
actually
use this
says
as
structural materials. This just, if you would make a motion to agree to this, or just reiterate that you agree that it is this. We have some people that come to us and say, well, it doesn't exactly say that. Well, it says structural material.
So we don't need anything changed in the ordinance, you
Not
just want
really.
clarification.
I wanna
So do we give these
clarify
people the
definition
money,
of
like,
structure.
when they apply, or they get the money after it's done?
Afterwards. And they have to
Well,
bring me
then I
tickets.
guess I would say that if they take their stuff
Here's
to
the
the dump
problem.
that's not supposed to go in there, they get,
But they're not taking it down.
Here's the problem, we
$100.
haul it out there, we dumped it on the ground, we sort it. Okay, because there's trash in it, guess who's not paying for it now? The city, that's on you. Even though you got the grant from the city,
Because
you're
it
paying
says
for the,
structural.
you're paying for the dumpster and the haul out there.
It has caused problems, because what'll happen is the homeowner that's tearing the building down comes in front of council, gets it approved, and then the contractor doesn't do maybe what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And then it's the homeowner themselves, the person paying to tear the thing down, it suffers for it, which isn't exactly fair, but.
So we need to rewrite the application to reflect the ordinance.
Right, we just would like to add some wordage to the application, if it's okay with you and you all agree, so that it is very clear, we do not pay for any trash, any rent on it. I mean, this one person had their dumpster so long, Tim's wanted to charge him rent. We don't pay for rent, because it took you 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the purpose of this.
Right.
And-
Maybe in parentheses, you need to define what materials,
Yeah,
construction materials
yeah.
probably
fall
bullets.
in.
Yeah, so we just wanted permission to do that, and that we only pay labor to a company. If you're gonna do it yourself, we're not gonna pay labor to you, you know. And you only get up to the 2,500, but sometimes and we always have to have proof, which we tell them that, and they have to give us the actual tickets that went to the CD pit, so we can see that it went to the CD pit, and it was that much money. Because if it doesn't cost you 2,500, we don't pay you 2,500. So it's up to.
Yeah, but it's all, unless you're just tearing down a shed, it's pretty much always gonna be. at least
Right,
25.
exactly, but we just have to cover all our bases. So if that's okay with you, we'll tweak the application. Yep.
Do
Okay.
you want us to make a motion?
I think that's just an administrative function.
Okay, I mean, we just wanted to run it by you so that somebody didn't come here and say, hey, they wouldn't pay me for this because of this, you've got a phone call. We wanted you all to be on board. Is that okay? Yep.
Anything else on them in finance? City attorney is not here, but we do need an executive session, correct?
For personnel.
Personnel.
Yep. You want to read?
I move the city council recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel, discussion on specific personnel matters, not general personnel policies, exception KSA 75-4319B1. This session will include mayor, city council members, and city administrator. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at
9:05.
9:05.
Second.
That was you, Parker?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0.
Make sure I remember how to turn this off.
I'm taking my paper bags. Is that all right?
Back on, you're almost
When we
there.
had our water line put in, it was rock.
I think they took like
Good to go.
3,000 yards out of there. Call this meeting back to order. No binding decisions were made. We continue as the rest of the meeting. Round table. Todd?
Well, since it came up earlier tonight, storage containers. So is this gonna be something that a committee needs to start discussing?
I can bring back the information that I
That'd be
have.
good.
I have a whole file of it.
I mean, it comes around, I mean, in my mind at least occasionally, and since it's being brought to us.
Every couple of years for about
I've got some opinions on it, so I'm ready to talk about it again. It's been long
We'll
enough.
find those ordinances.
Well, and the
that were
planning
proposed.
commission, it went to them last time, and they were the ones that said
No.
no.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. I mean, if that's the consensus, it needs to be the
But-
planning commission's railroad, but.
I don't have a problem with bringing it back up. I mean,
I can see what I can find in the files.
I've seen some of the stuff they build out of them, you can't even tell on some of them.
I know, that's the thing, if properly done, it's a
Yeah.
great piece of material.
And
so if we do it, we need to have strict regulations.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, we get our ducks in a row, but, yeah.
just having the trouble we've had with the demolition, you need to be specific if you're gonna allow it for building material.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're gonna allow it for, because it's hard for us to police if we don't have specifics. I mean,
People are building stuff out of a lot worse.
no, if they build something out of them, that's one thing. If they set the container, it's another. So we just need to know exactly what you want.
Okay. Do you want to send that out for the next time?
You can try.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, anything else?
Question on the city lots down here west of the Pony Park, where the building just changed hands. There's a footing being poured along there. What's going on?
Building changed hands
The
again.
building changed hands. So to fix that wall, they needed a little bit more, and as I talked with, the owner of that property, and basically what came out of it is, as long as they're fixing up that building right, they can come over a little bit, just to make it
Quite a
right.
bit over.
Hey, Austin.
Yeah.
Building changed hands again.
It changed hands again?
Yeah.
It did for sure.
Did that happen today?
Well,
Is it official, like you can tell us who?
October 31st, Marshall County owns it.
then I think the buildings are coming down.
Yes, all three buildings will now be slated for demolition according to the meeting today.
Well, if they didn't need room for a basement, why did they need more real estate?
I don't know what
mean,
happened.
That's the obvious
asking.
question.
So what the changes are null and void at this.
Yeah,
We'll just
They'll
cover that
probably be
back up,
digging
put
it
more
all up
grass in
now.
it.
again.
Again.
Just leave it alone.
I will address it with the next owner and make sure, because they won't need our property.
Well, whoever the heck ends up with it tomorrow or next week or whenever, I still think we should come up with some good plans for that area. I've still been, I mean, after this weekend and seeing that, I helped personally take down that tent as it was tearing itself to death. It'd be nice to have a permanent pavilion area there to use for events. It saves, in the long run, it's gonna save a lot of time and money. And so I want us to be ahead of that with whatever plan is going on down there. If that can be something we work with the new owners or subsequent, fine. But I just want to stay ahead of that curve so they don't build something and then, well, we don't want you to put up a roof, you're gonna block this, or a wall, or let's have that conversation proactively,
No.
Yep, agreed.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, no, a lot of visitors to town again this weekend. Of course, they had a lot of positive things to say. I think we take for granted things. I say this every time, but really, it's amazing to me that people are like, oh, it's my favorite ride. It's like such a cool town to, you know, you got all these things going on in the different parks, and we definitely take it for granted. But I think with the 7th Street Corridor project and otherwise, we're making strides in the right direction, and making those kinds of decisions and taking on those projects are the kind of things that people outside really see and know things are moving in the right direction. So,
I thought it was interesting on that note that Greg Voss posted about the Boss Nationals are gonna be in East Moline, Illinois, and several people in the comments says, I'm gonna pass. If you have it in Marysville again, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
That's good. That's all I have.
Okay. Jeff?
Well, first thing, I'd like to thank everybody that went down to Lynchburg. That was a great visit to see how a community approached a problem and tackled it and moved on without causing any additional taxpayer money to go into the project. I would shout out to Todd. I helped out a little bit on the gravel dash from about 7 in the morning till 9:30. We finally got back to the venue here. I was one of those guys that followed the last rider that had some ambition. But leading into that, I got back and I kind of rinsed the mud off my Jeep a little bit and then decided to drive home. And on that short little quarter mile between Kiowa and it'd be Timber Creek Drive, it looked like I never even touched the thing. So I'm going to lead into something here, and I'm going to be really quick. Because at one time we talked about, well, if we're going to improve roads, we need to look at a special taxing district. Well, honestly, the residents that were there before Keystone, regardless of what this council wants to say, this administration wants to say, were told that they would have improved roads. We went in, we improved the roads, but we did not maintain them to a standard where they were a improved road. Second argument, the properties at Keystone, well, we're not going to improve a road down to Keystone because unless you want to pay for a special taxing district. You have to remember that the lots that were sold were in phase 1, and the value of the lots were based on the fact that they had a concrete paved road in front of them. I really want the council to take a strong consideration in the future to look at a project a little bit bigger than doing 1,000 feet at a time, and at least go out and bid a larger project and see where we're at, and then see what kind of funds we can come up with. What my proposal would be from 36 to Timber Creek Drive, and then from 11th Terrace to 11th Road on Keystone, and north on 11th. One project, one time. If we want to allow companies that have their own engineering staff to bid it, we open it up that way. And we open it up to whatever kind of aggregate they want to use. I personally feel that what did we do the first time on 11th Road? Maybe 1,000 feet? Probably right at that. Sometimes when you try to do little projects here and there to accomplish a larger project, you nickel and dime yourself to death over time. So I think we at least, for the residents that live out there, and for the tax revenue that's coming in from that area, we need to at least look at all options and not just the way we have it currently set in our capital outlay long-term plan. But that's all I have.
Okay, and we did a few years ago when I think Kevin was on that committee. We looked, and I think we had a meeting where the entire council kind of looked at it about borrowing money and doing several.
Well, true. We missed that boat. We also several years ago proposed concrete for the whole area, and there was never really any public talk about other options. So I'll leave it at that.
We had one as
it was not brought up at that meeting, Jason.
No,
so.
it wasn't. I'm talking about a different workshop meeting.
Yep.
But we weighed whether you are better to bid it out as a large chunk and borrow the money versus doing a little bit every year. And council at that time decided that, because the problem is you bid it out one chunk, but then you issue bonds, and that bondsman is going to get his chunk. You're going to pay interest on that loan.
But your mobilization for 1,000 feet at a time, you're going to nickel and dime yourself to death doing it that way.
We looked at the cost, whether you're, I mean, your
round table, open discussion. So
I know. Yep. We looked at it. I mean, it's not like we did not look at other options at the time. And the other thing too was, as a council, you have to keep in mind, if every year you're doing a project, people are seeing you get things done, every year. It might be a little bit, it might not be as much as they want, but they are seeing progress every year. You do 5 years, they're happy that first year, and the next 4 years are going, why is nothing getting done? Nothing's getting done. They forget that you're making bond payments for those next 4 or 5 years, paying that loan off.
I'm not disagreeing with Jeff's perspective at
Yeah.
all here, but to that point, you do some project here, and then you do a project over there, and then you do a project over there around town, and then everybody feels like the whole town's getting love.
And
Whereas you put
we
5
have
years of
tried to
projects
spread
on
it out.
one, then it's no projects on the other part of town. I'm not, again.
And you get
I'm not
small
saying you're
projects
wrong.
done.
I'm just,
I have a question.
it's a perspective, that's all I'm
Who
saying.
put the concrete roads that are out in Keystone Edition now?
Well, that was the developer, and we've already replaced part of
Well,
it.
you had the opportunity to have an inspector out there where those roads are going in. I was in that area at the time, and.
I mean, I don't think any of us were on council at the time when those roads got accepted.
No, you
but-
weren't.
But I know we went back one time and looked at the minutes, and council had a quite robust discussion at the time about whether to accept those roads or not, because they knew there were issues with the roads. But either way, they voted and they accepted the roads, and we lived with that.
Actually, they
findings.
didn't
To this
vote, they
day.
just got it.
Okay, well.
They didn't
Well,
vote.
good,
Either
now
way,
that
we-
he's done, that
we
gives
are-
us a note of.
And I think there might be some county help for a portion of that might help make the project be a little more feasible.
Have you had discussions, or what makes you suspect as much?
As a private citizen, I can assure you I've had discussions.
Fascinating.
I would welcome any money the county would want to
I'm done.
send our way.
Well, I guess you'd need to go to a meeting.
So Jeff, do you think the street committee or someone should discuss this and explore what that would look like doing the project like you proposed?
I think most definitely.
Okay.
Since the street
Lori
department's
say?
meeting anyway?
8th Street and Jayhawk Road paved or chipped and sealed. Got that note? Got a
Which
lot
one?
of comments on that.
Which one?
Like 8th Street to Jayhawk Road.
Where it stops, when it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
where
the
the
belt.
holes are. and-
We are gonna have to have a pretty serious discussion in the next few years as they get more houses up there on, Hartley Ridge.
Hartley
Yeah.
Ridge.
About at least paving that down to their drive, I think.
Calm down, Jeff.
I mean,
Don't do it,
well, I
Jeff.
know.
Who takes care of them that gravel road out?
I can give you statistics on tax revenue.
Well,
I know, but the cost to get that little piece for, and I'm talking when they've got it mostly filled out, but you're
Yeah,
talking one
yeah,
little
part of
stretch to
the-
get an entire development versus.
part of the problem that we're having out there, Jason,
Yeah.
the
What?
ditches are not clean. All them ditches need cleaned out there because the water can't get off the road.
Oh, yeah, there's gotta be some
No,
improvements too.
it's not maybe, it's,
Are you
that's the
saying
problem.
Jayhawk or 8th?
Both,
Yeah, they need pulled out.
because right now, the
So that's the other
road
project after
is-
Keystone.
is lower than the ditch.
And I don't know if is the road centered in the right of way as well? Because that's been something when we pulled up ditches and things, that's always a,
That's fair deal, but.
The west side of 8th, we don't have by Deer King, but we do have all of Jayhawk. I know it's kind of weird, but that's how that works.
I remember that being discussed.
I don't know, I just know that when you drive out there, cause it's rained and there's big areas that puddles have collected because it can't get off the road, you're not helping the road.
Do we know the condition of the culvert underneath 8th up there?
I don't know.
Just out of curiosity.
I don't know what
Can't
kind of
get
shape
there.
they're in.
It's gotta run down the center of the road and fall off.
I'm just curious if we're talking about water and ditches
I think
and digging things
it's a
up.
big culvert.
But how old is it? I mean, is it limestone under there? Nothing surprises me.
I don't think it is.
So, yeah, okay, so the ditches.
I'm done, thank you.
Lori?
This is Lori.
I think that's all I got.
I don't have anything.
Keith? Nothing? Kyle?
Nope, nothing.
Parker?
No.
Cool. Kevin? The only thing it was a nice meeting going down to Lynchburg. It was a lot of information. It was interesting to see, how they had tried to tailor that to their specific needs. I think our needs are a little bit different than what some of theirs are, but, it was a good trip. So, that's all I got.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
And then
All right.
you can add.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?